Hi, everybody. I am Kate Pollan. I'm a coach, writer, and a deeply curious human, and this is Hello Void. This series is meant to be a collection of unscripted conversations that are at the intersection of psyche and uncertainty in 2025. So I'm sitting down with coaches, creatives, healers, thinkers, feelers, anyone who wants to explore what it means to actually be human right now, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. All of this at a time when the world feels just increasingly chaotic and contradictory and completely wired for overwhelm. So, we're talking about how people are making sense of their inner lives on this series, how they're learning to live alongside emotional pain and uncertainty, and what they've noticed in the people that they work with, the people that they interact with on a day-to-day basis. And this is because being human isn't a solo experience. It's relational. It's bittersweet. It's joy and grief, expansion and fear, doubt and wonder, all of that at once, all sitting side by side. So today I'm talking with Jenna Robinson, and I am excited to get to hear some from her. So Jenna, you want to say hi and introduce yourselves? Self?
Hello, hello, hello. My name's Jena Robinson. Thank you so much, Kate, for hosting me here. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I love what you're saying. In fact, I was getting goosebumps as you were saying it because it's like, yes, this is it. Like, let's have this conversation. Myself, I work usually with entrepreneurs and professionals, and my focus is really helping them to ditch overwhelm so that they can let their genius shine. And so it's like exactly what you're saying. It's like, how do we make sense of things? And I kind of come at it from an emotional point of view and help myself help others make sense of what their emotions are, not to just stuff them down, but really like what are they here for? Like how are they helping us? How can we use them? How can we, build with them? So, thank you so much for having me.
What kind of information might they actually be able to tell us if we were to pay attention rather than judge ourselves for having them?
This too.
Well, I am very excited to have this conversation with you. And I know you touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to ask this question kind of explicitly. What was
Hmm.
the main thing that made you say yes to having this conversation with me today?
Yeah. So I really was attracted to the part where it was like making sense of this experience through the chaos and the disruption because it's happening. It's been happening. It's probably going to continue happening, which means there's no going back. We can't pretend, we're going back to who we were. It's right now, it's all about becoming, our best selves through all of this. And one of my kind of thoughts or things on my mind a lot is that chaos and crisis is really an invitation to really ignite the best part of yourself, the part of you that can handle it, that is, has the answers. And so, yeah, that was really exciting. It's like, let's chat.
That's beautiful. I love it. I know that part of the reason that I am creating this series is that I think there's so much that we keep in the dark, and I want to bring some light to it, show that there's nothing wrong with us being human and with questioning these things. And we are all, we're doing the best that we can, and we can show ourselves some grace sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me, how has your understanding of what it means to be human changed in the past few years, emotionally, spiritually, whatever arises to you?
Yeah. So I think for me, one of the things that I really recognized is that while we're all having like this human experience, the way we experience it can be so very different. And I know that sounds obvious, but I was just talking to somebody the other day. Now I'm in Italy, and I was talking to somebody in the US, but it was like so fascinating to listen to him describe his challenges and his goals and what he just longed for. And I kept thinking in my mind, listening, yes, 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 this is for you. Absolutely. And yet, on the other hand, it's as if it felt so far away because of all the chaos that he was experiencing, which some of it can be, our external environments, and then a lot, some of it can also be what we're experiencing on the inside. And it all kind of mixes together and gives us our experience. And so for me, it was also this. kind of need to really honor those different experiences. I was talking to somebody else and was like, you know, nobody really escapes the challenge. We all
Yep.
experience it, but in different ways. And one challenge for someone could be like the easiest thing for another person.
Hmm.
And so it's just brought, I don't know, I think even more compassion for me, for myself, for the interactions and the experiences I have, who I work with, who they impact in their communities. And it's just like, whoa.
Absolutely. I would say one of the biggest changes for me, or I should say one of the more deepening things for me has been this sense of compassion that I feel both for myself and for humans as a whole. Because uncertainty, it's scary. It is scary, and I feel like we as humans, we are made to want to control. We are made to think that being in control is what will keep us safe. And we kind of put being safe above everything else. And so when something comes along that feels unsafe, or like when we are trying to make a new habit, change something that we've done before, it feels scary because we've never experienced it before and our brains are telling us, "Hey, hey, this isn't safe. This isn't safe. Don't do this." And knowing that we don't have to take what we hear or what we think as fact. We can choose to kind of get curious and push back a little bit and be like, is that true? Or is that just what I'm used to thinking? Start to
Yeah.
call ourselves out a little bit.
Yeah. I love that get curious. Like, I feel that could be like the answer for so many
So
things. It's
much.
like, get curious about that. Is that true?
I was talking with someone earlier. I'm a big question asker. I ask a lot of questions. I'm also somebody who they explain the big picture to me. And so I will ask a lot of questions. And one of my big things, especially over the past few years, has been like if somebody's asking you a question and you feel like threatened by it or anything along those lines, maybe take a second and instead of assuming that the person meant to judge you or that they meant whatever, just get curious. Ask
Mhm.
instead. Like, why are you asking this? Like, can you explain more to me about where you're coming from with this question so that I can understand and actually give you an answer that's going to help? And when
Mhm.
we can get curious about things, it naturally increases the compassion, in my opinion.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that too. Oh, yeah.
Well, speaking of which, you said that you were talking about longing. What do you think people are really longing for right now?
Oh, that's such a good question. I honestly think they are longing for more of themselves, for more of their self-expression, for more connection, for more, just being who they are. And I know it sounds simplistic, but I think a lot of times we don't truly know or connected to like who we really are. And I think it's a process of discovery, like it's a constant process of discovery. But you mentioned earlier, it's like maybe before I thought of myself in some way, and now I'm like, whoa, I feel so much more expanded beyond that little piece of me that I was letting express before. And I think it'll be a constant journey, like it not like a constant striving necessarily,
Yeah,
but it's like a never-ending thing where
something
you
always in
just
motion.
exactly, exactly. And so I think that is part of the longing. It's like we know we're meant for more. We know we don't need to, like, yes, we would like to control things, but like we don't necessarily need to. And that can be a place of power, because that also kind of forces us to tap into our powers and our strengths when we're not able to rely on the typical things that we did before and nothing's working. That's often a sign of like you're creating the next thing. You
Mm,
are maybe birthing the next thing. We have to go through this because
yeah.
there's no other way. So we're creating something else through ourselves in a way.
Yeah, and I like the power of like maybe that like this is actually happening for you, not to you. It may not always seem that way, And if we can start to view things as happening as opportunities that we can learn from, whether or not we like them, that like our opinions of it, quite frankly, are they're not really part of the conversation. And when we can view like anything as, you know what, I don't know what's going to happen in this situation, and I know that I can trust myself to learn from it and to be present with myself, even if it doesn't feel comfortable, even if I'm ugly crying like a large portion of the day, like I can still be present with myself with that. And to me, that's
Mhm.
where the power lies.
Yeah. And I think there, like, that's also, it's really powerful, but that's also, I don't know. It's almost as if the longing is almost like pulling that out of us and pulling us towards that. So if we're experiencing that, we're like, oh, I don't need it. Like you said, when you're present, like you're in a better space to kind of follow that longing or follow where it's taking you, even if everything seems really chaotic. It's like that trust in a way is almost like where that longing, it's like building that muscle of trust
It
in a
is, and
sense.
it is an exercise too. It's something that we do over and over and over. It's not a destination, right? It's something that we are constantly shaping and evolving. And I think that when we as humans look at things from a, I need to reach this destination, I'm just trying to get to this next point, then we get there and then we're like, oh, that wasn't enough. I need more. I'd always need more and more and more versus being aware that you're longing. Like right now, I'm really feeling like I'm not, but pretend that I really was feeling like I needed validation right now, for example. I could start to turn inward and actually give myself that validation instead of insisting that this other person that I'm talking to gives me that.
Yeah, that's a good example. That's a really good one. Even if it was just, an example.
Yeah. It
I'm sure we've all experienced that.
was definitely something I was thinking about earlier. So, but how do you personally make space for pain or uncertainty when it shows up?
Ooh, this is a really good question. Yeah. So, I actually came up with a little exercise that I do that helps me get out of my head and out of the panic. And I came up with it because I needed to force myself to be present with the emotional experience I was having because it's like, when I was younger, I used to stuff them all down. Well, that came back to bite me with my health and all these
Yes.
things. And so it's like, okay, what can I do in the moment when things get intense? So what I started doing is I'd get like a scratch piece of paper, or you could do it in your head too. And I would make a little T chart. And on the left side of the chart, I'd be like, okay, what am I experiencing right now? Maybe it was like anger or whatever it was. And I would write it down. I'd be like, okay, expressed, like I wrote it out there, looked at it, feeling it. Now, what do I want? And it's like, okay, what do I want to experience besides this anger? And I literally would just sit with myself until I had one positive emotion that I wanted to experience instead. And then I would write it down. So maybe the anger was just me because I was tired. So maybe I wanted to be more rested, and that's not really an emotion. But like, let's say I wanted to feel content. And then I would
Mhm.
write that down on the other side. And I would just keep going back and forth, always with one negative one, I would always put a positive one or more. I would allow myself as many positive ones as possible, but I would always really be in that one sort of so-called negative emotion. And I found that got me through what I was experiencing as long as I allowed myself that opportunity for it to be really front and center
Present,
so
yeah,
that I
be
could,
there.
yeah, so that I could focus on something else. And I found that that really, really helped me because instead of stuffing down what I didn't want to experience, I was looking it in the face and being like, all right, you're here. Like, let's deal. And
Yeah.
I found that that got me through things a lot faster. But it does require like a little bit of a discipline, right? You can't just be like, okay, like I hope that I'm not going to be angry after I talked with this person because what they did made me really irritated. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I accept that they made me feel irritated. What is really behind this?
Yeah. What is it bringing up for me that I am now like wanting to react to?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I used to really stew in my emotions, in my emotional energy, And that wasn't really helpful, right? And
Shocking.
so
Yeah.
now it's like, okay, been there, done that. Let's use them for empowerment.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and so many of us, I'm guilty of this for sure in the past, especially where I don't feel good, whatever, if I'm angry, if I'm sad, like whatever it is. And so I want to feel better and I will distract myself with food because I'm like, okay, but I may not be in a great mood, but this sugar is going to trick my brain into thinking that I'm in a much better mood and certainly not the healthiest of choices at all. And so I like the idea of having one that's almost like, okay, I'm acknowledging that there are these other emotions that I would rather be feeling, that if I got to choose, this is what I'd be feeling. And actually taking the time to pause and look into it and figure out what it is that you need, not just what you want in that moment.
hmm Yeah, yeah. And I think we've all been there. Like, I don't think there's anyone who hasn't been like, oh, it'd be so nice to eat something yummy and feel better right away. So I totally get that. And then at a certain point, that doesn't quite work the way you want it to,
No,
or
you
it's
always need more and
short-lived.
more and more and more. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
So,
absolutely. Well, you kind of answered this one a little bit, but is there an idea or belief about emotional well-being that you used to hold and no longer do?
that's a good question. I think I used to, maybe not consciously, but when I think about it now, that was probably the underlying thing was that emotions and emotional energy was just uncontrollable. And that's not to say that like controlling them is the answer, but I didn't even consider before the fact that what I experience and feel that I could do anything about it. And I think maybe in the 70s, a lot of stuff came out about emotional intelligence, which, hello, I didn't even know like the emotional intelligence was like a name of a thing maybe like 5 years ago, but my entire life, like that's what I was learning and like self-studying in a way is
Same.
how to manage, deal with, work with emotions. And I remember one time when it really hit me. Um, I thought I was in my own emotional world dealing with something. This was when I lived with my family, and my brother came out of his room or whatever and was like, Jenna, like, enough already. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, he's an empath. He can feel what I was feeling. I thought I was alone in my own emotional cave trying to deal with it. And I really realized then how my emotional energy impacts other people around me. And I thought, whoa, like I would like to learn how to be in a better space, not to just avoid it for the sake of, making everyone feel better, but really deal with them in a healthy way so that it can become a powerful experience. That means I can go and be with other people and they're feeling that good positive energy rather than, this emotional kind of mess. And so that's what I used to believe it that it was whatever it was and there's nothing I could do about it and everything just escalated and that was it.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no, that's not it. And in fact, emotional energy and working with it can actually be kind of fun and creative too.
Hmm.
Um, that was
Yeah.
something that took a while for me to kind of just break out of.
What I'm hearing from that also is that there was this sense that emotions, especially when they're like quote unquote bad emotions, that they are something to hide, that they're
hmm
something you should be ashamed for having.
Yeah, yeah. It was really, yeah, it just felt as if, oh, well, nobody really talks about emotions, so like what am I gonna do with myself? I feel what I feel. Like, what do I do?
Yeah, I can't think about anything other than this emotion that I'm having, and yet it doesn't seem like this is what other people are doing. Therefore, there must be something wrong with me that I'm having this emotion in the first place.
Which, yeah,
That was my story, at least.
leads to a whole bunch of challenges, right?
Absolutely. So, in the honor of time, we're getting to the point where I want to invite you to tell folks about where they can find you and share a free gift that you brought for listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those who are on Instagram, I'm at Jenna's Energetic Adventures. And I have a little gift for everyone. So we talked a lot about emotional energy and things like that. And I see them kind of as a signal, like they're telling us something, but it's like, what are they telling us? What's a process that I can use to actually make sense of it? And so I created that based on my own experience and then experience that I have with helping a lot of my clients to make it more of like a framework and something that you can use instead of just being like, oh my gosh, what do I do next? And so I call it my Activate Your Solutions Now. It's an essential skills guide that really walks you
Cool.
through some ways to do that in a really constructive way that helps you to feel more empowered and less anxious.
That is beautiful. I love that. I will include the links for that in the show notes as well. So anybody who is interested is more than encouraged to reach out to Jenna. Take advantage of that free resource and learn from it. And for anybody listening who wants to connect with me or find out more about my coaching services, you can find me also on Instagram at followthedopamine.life, on my website, followthedopamine.life, and on Substack at, yes, follow the dopamine. And if this conversation sparks something in you and you want to explore what it means to be human with me in all of its bittersweet mess and beauty, I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, thanks for being here. Thank you for being here, Jenna.
Thank
And
you.
listeners, thank you for being you.